Friends, the, um, the English alphabet is just 26 letters. If we take those 26 letters and we add, say, the Greek alphabet of 24 letters, plus a handful of symbols, a few drawings, the 10 digits, we end up with an assortment of symbols and glyphs that comprise perhaps fewer than 100 or a few dozen, and yet the entire secret, the entire secret doctrine is composed of just these few. The complete works of Shakespeare, of Einstein, Edgar Allan Poe, F. Scott Fitzgerald, the list goes on, are all contained within this simple set of symbols, these 26 letters. 2 weeks ago here, we heard a beautiful talk about what is called in theosophy the three fundamentals. The first is that there is an absolute, abstract, primordial state of being and non-being that cannot really be conceived of or even described to the satisfaction of the human mind. We heard that from this everything, nothing emerges the manifested universe, and that the universe exists within a framework of law, notably cycles, periodicity, and polarity. And the third fundamental is that through this process, nature and everything in it, including consciousness and those beings endowed with it, evolve and progress through a very long series of transformative stages. Now, these three fundamentals are propositions offered at the beginning of the secret doctrine, the absolute, law, and evolution. They're presented there at the beginning of the book and have such enormous impact to the entire philosophy, to everything we do as students of theosophy. And yet they too are comprised only of those 26 letters and a handful of symbols. And then last week we learned about DNA and the cell, and we were told that it takes just 4 amino acids and 23 pairs of chromosomes to produce every single protein that our bodies use. Your blood, your bones, your brain, hair, eyes, skin, your muscles, everything is comprised of the proteins that are created by this DNA. Just 4 amino acids is all that's required to write that code. And one doesn't have to look around far to see the enormous diversity that creates, this fantastic variation in humanity. There's the idea that no two snowflakes are alike. And it's true for human beings. No two human beings ever live the same life. They never are born with the same body. There are an estimated 7 billion people on Earth right now almost, and no two are alike. In the last 50,000 years, there's been an estimated 100 plus billion people who have lived on Earth. No two have ever been alike. If we think about that for a moment, it illustrates how vast the potential for such a small subset of rules, 4 amino acids. And in all of human history, all of the Shakespeares and HPBs and Einsteins that there have never been two that were identical. Twins, though they have an identical DNA, are the exception that prove the rule. Because DNA, in their case, in everyone's case actually, only provides a certain potential. That is, there are certain characteristics of the human body that are potentized by DNA. The patterns of veins, hair follicles, fingerprints, freckles, things like that. Those are unique, even among twins. So they are as unique as snowflakes. To give another example, snowflakes themselves. We talked about 100 billion people over the last 50,000 years. But in one snowstorm, a foot of snow can fall on your driveway, and in just 10 square feet, there's 100 billion snowflakes in just one snowstorm. Every snowflake is different. The rule set is very small. It's very simple rules. Every year, 1,000,000 billion cubic feet of snow falls worldwide. It continues year in and year out for millennia. The numbers quickly become incalculable, greater than the number of atoms in the universe in terms of the potential combinations. No two are alike. So this diversity comes out of the rules. There's a rule set. There's a set of laws that govern these things to happen. For snowflakes, the temperature has to be below freezing. There has to be a sufficient moisture level of the air. Humidity has to be a certain level. Barometric pressure has to be right for it to precipitate. If we alter any of those rules, we don't get snow. We don't get snowflakes. We don't get snowstorms. There is just, take any one of those rules out and the entire system breaks down. It becomes entropy. It becomes chaos. And you don't get that expression of natural diversity that you do when you have this set of rules in place. There's this quote from Shakespeare that illustrates this. It's from Act 1, Scene 3 of Troilus and Cressida. The heavens themselves, the planets and this center, observe degree, priority, and place, insistiture, course, proportion, season, form, office, and custom, in all line of order. And therefore is the glorious planet's soul in noble eminence enthroned and sphered, amidst the other, whose medicinable eye corrects the ill aspects of planet's evil, and posts, like the commandment of a king, sans check to do to good and bad. But when the planets in evil mixture to disorder wander, what plagues and what portents, what mutiny, what raging of the sea, shaking of the earth, commotion in the winds, frights, changes, horrors, divert and crack, rend and deracinate the unity and married calm of states quite from their fixture. Oh, when degree is shaked, which is the ladder of all high designs, the enterprise is sick. How could communities, degrees in schools, and brotherhoods in cities, peaceful commerce from dividable shores, the primogenitive and due of birth, prerogative of age, crowns, scepters, laurels, but by degree stand in authentic place. So he tells us in an amazingly beautiful verse that what happens when we take away the rules. When the rule set is not in place, we have the enterprise is sick, he says. Commotion in the winds, frights, changes, horrors. Let's take out one amino acid. No DNA, no human being, no Shakespeare, no Romeo, no Juliet. It could be even simpler. You could take out one letter of the English alphabet. Take out the T and you have Romeo and Julie. The system changes. It can't happen without the full rule set. You have Hamel instead of Hamlet. The point is, very small variations in the rules and the system breaks down. The expression of life, of art, of consciousness, of all existence is parametric. It's bound by parameters. It's circumscribed by rules. It's guided and shaped by law. It is orderly. If we all agree in an orderly way to go bowling, and one of us decides instead of rolling the ball down the lane to knock over the pins, they're just going to walk down there and knock them over with their hands. It ceases to be a game. How long would that be fun for anyone? It's the rules that permit that game to continue, to be fun, to be, for there to be progress. Without those rules, if everyone can just do whatever they want to knock down the pins, chaos ensues. You have entropy. You return to a primordial state. primordial, before order, before there's order. You would return to the state before you had a game, before you had a team that wanted to bowl. To understand why this is important, we need to think about the nature of chaos and entropy and this natural process of systemization and rules. We need to understand it in the cosmic sense as well as in the practical sense of our daily lives. And we need to apply the first fundamental, the absolute, the second fundamental, evolving into cycles, and then the third fundamental, evolving through those cycles to higher levels. We need to understand our own perspective of ourselves as meditators, as seekers, as Aquarian manasas. We often think of artists in an Aquarian way as free spirits, exemplars of creativity, spontaneity, nonconformity. That very term, nonconformity, means to deny the conventional and to embrace the idiosyncratic. And certainly looking back over history at Mozart or at Einstein or at Da Vinci or Shakespeare, we see them as idiosyncratic personalities. But they all stuck to the rules. The importance of these rules is in art and in creativity is that they fit with the power of our mind to create and to discover. Everything around us is the result of law, systems of order, rules that govern physics, metaphysics, logistics. Intelligence is the organizing force. It's the systematizing influence. It was the intelligence of the cosmic progenitors that formed cosmos out of chaos, transforming the absolute into manifestation. As that happened, the forces of polarity and law were set in motion, creating order and hierarchy and rules. From these primordial rules, every single thing in our universe is born, from the macrocosmic to the microscopic. This means that from a set of rules or methodology, a set of terms that bind us, the cosmocrators release their infinite creative potential, and through cosmic ideation, they create the whole universe. This is all from the Secret Doctrine. We need to understand the difference between the age that we've passed out of, the Piscean age, and the Aquarian age that we're moving into, that we have transferred into. A characteristic of the Piscean age is this adherence to structure, to rules, to hierarchy, to monarchy. It's the source of the dogma that HPB and the other great masters of the Theosophical philosophy came to help us break free of. They show us in their work the dangers of a blind subservience to the rules, the risk we take when we abdicate our individual will and our self-consciousness in favor of a system that is handed down to us. To stop questioning, to simply accept what we are told, is to actually distort our monastic principle. Our thinking principle actually becomes corrupted by a refusal to engage it. Our mind principle, that aspect of our nature that resides at the junction of our higher and lower nature, becomes a casualty of the lower and inimical forces in nature. There's a quote from HPB that pertains to this. This is from an article called La Revue Théosophique from March of 1889. She says, "You occultists, Kabbalists, and Theosophists, you know well that a word as old as the world, though new to you, has been sounded at the beginning of this cycle. You know that a note never before heard by the men of the present era has just been sounded, and that a new kind of thought has arisen, fostered by the evolutionary forces. This thought differs from all that has ever been produced in the 19th century, yet it is identical with what was the keynote and the keystone of every century, especially the last one, absolute freedom of human thought. So how do we reconcile our birthright of independent will, that absolute freedom of human thought, and this unescapable ubiquity of rules governing everything we do and everything that we are? We do this by understanding our real power as self-conscious beings. Not just conscious, but self-conscious. Robert Crosby said that we are reality assigning agents. That is, we do not passively observe the world of form, we actively give it its reality. To put it another way, the world of form evolves from us, not us from it. So the rules that are there, those are our rules. We set that up. They're consistent with the rules of the universe, as above, so below. But they are not binding us to conformity. They liberate us to create. Think of Shakespeare, all that he was able to create by working within the rules of language, everything that Monet or Da Vinci created within the rules of art and engineering. Think of the snowflakes, every one, a rogue, a renegade, an individualist of epic and unimaginable proportion, each one different, each new one unique, never repeating. Still, our lower nature chafes at those rules, but our higher nature sees the opportunity that they present. Our higher nature can see that there are rule sets within rule sets, and that each is derived from a superset higher than itself, and that ultimately leads us back to the three fundamentals, the abstract origin of all, the ultimate creative expression of that all in a system of law, and the consequent and inevitable evolution back to that origin. H.B.'s work indisputably ushered in the new age that commenced at the beginning of the last century, shortly after her passing. A characteristic of the Aquarian age is the washing away of these old dogmatic structures and rebuilding something new in a cooperative and collaborative way. To quote HPB again, "But you, friends and readers who aspire to something more than the life of the squirrel in its ceaselessly revolving wheel," that's of course a characterization of the Piscean age, "you who are not satisfied with the cauldron which is ever boiling without producing anything, you who do not mistake hollow echoes as old as the world for the divine voice of truth, prepare yourselves for a future that few of you have dreamed of unless you have already set your feet upon the path. For you have chosen a way, in the beginning lined with thorns, will soon widen and lead you straight to the divine truth. You are free to doubt at first, free not to accept on someone's word what is taught concerning the source and the cause of this truth. But you can always listen to what the voice is saying. You can always watch the effects produced by the creative force which emerges from the depths of the unknown, the arid soil upon which our present generations are moving at the close of this age of spiritual starvation and material satiety is in need of a sign, of a rainbow, a symbol of hope above its horizon. Now is the time for action by all who see the sterility and foolishness of an existence blinded by materialism and so ferociously indifferent to the fate of others. It is for them to devote their best energies, all their courage and all their efforts to bring about an intellectual reform. This reform cannot be accomplished except through theosophy, and let us say it, occultism, or the wisdom of the East. Many are the paths leading to it, but wisdom is forever one. Artists foresee it, those who suffer dream of it, the pure in spirit know it." This is again from La Revue Théosophique from 1889 by HPB. So the rules still apply. Physics did not change with the dawning of the age of Aquarius, but the metaphysics changed. We do not lose the work and the legacy of the previous age. We expand on it. We evolve through it and from it. We retain that progress that we made through the Piscean age. It's not lost. And there's a corresponding progress in science and art and education. The new paradigm affects every aspect of our lives. There's this example given since the splitting of the atom, which happened shortly after the Aquarian age commenced. We know that there's enough physical energy in a toothpick to produce 25 million kilowatt hours of electricity. This is the potency of the Aquarian paradigm. In the old age, we could burn the toothpick for about a minute. In the new age, it can power a 100-watt light bulb for 30,000 years. So I'm going to close with one more quote, which some of us may recognize. When the moon is in the 7th house and Jupiter aligns with Mars, then peace will guide the planets and love will steer the stars. This is the dawning of the age of Aquarius. Harmony and understanding, sympathy and trust abounding. No more falsehoods or derisions. Golden living dreams of visions, mystic crystal revelation, and the mind's true liberation. Aquarius, Aquarius, this is the dawning of the age of Aquarius. Let the sun shine in, let the sun shine in, let the sun shine in. That's, of course, the 5th dimension from 1969. So we would open it up to comments and quotes.